It's the Goosefoot family. I'm not sure if it's Good King Henry or Fat Hen. I think it's Good King Henry. But I don't want to pick it out of the ground. I want to let this one go to seed because it's part of the same family as quinoa, and so the seeds are edible the same and used in the same way as quinoa. And it was also used as a vegetable in Britain before spinach came along. And our ancestors would have all known about this and would have all eaten it. And there's various different types within the Goosefoot family. That's just one of them.
So do you cook it like?
Cook it like spinach.
You can eat it raw as well. It's a bit nicer cooked.
It's much nicer cooked.
And if it grows by the coast, it tends to take on a salty taste.
And does it have flour?
It's seeds.
It's seeds. It goes the same way as sort of quinoa and millet do, where they just get little clusters of seeds coming out of it.
So you'll get a tiny green flower, not much right on like a little flower, as the little seeds. So.
And they're really nice. The seeds are really nice. I steam them, then strip them off the plant, and put a bit of olive oil, not olive oil, soy sauce on them, and that's nice. Just isn't
nutritious in the way that quinoa is meant to be.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if they're like a superfood. I don't know the nutritional value of it, but same family, you'd think that they'd be pretty good.
The wild foods tend to be more nutritious than domesticated ones. So I don't know if Goosefoot's necessarily, wild quinoa might be more nutritious than cultivated, but whether or not the seed's more nutritious than quinoa is got crystals in the lower leaves. So these look like they've been picked. You can pick the top parts of them this time of year, or in the spring, the fresh new growth, and they're the best ones to eat. Anything further down, you end up with this sort of gritty taste to them. That's another one that you can use as spinach, but it's a lot more nutritious than spinach. And one of the properties of nettles that contains is quite high in tryptophan, which is a precursor to serotonin. So you can see nettles as a kind of natural antidepressant. There's a cord that you can make out of nettles, and during the Second World War, the German army, because of the blockades, couldn't get enough cotton, so actually made their uniforms out of nettle fabric. And there's a dye that's obtained from the leaves as well that can be used for clothes. So whether or not they had green clothes made of nettle and then dyed them with nettle is another thing, but I know they certainly grew their clothes out of nettle. And next to that is something that Andy wants to talk about, which is
this is another edible. It's rather bitter, the leaves. I wouldn't recommend.
If anyone can guess what that's related to, it's a common vegetable
that we use in a salad. Yeah, this is wild lettuce.
Oh my god.
Acid. Earlier, this contains quite a lot of it. It's dock. You can eat dock. It's best in the spring because it doesn't have so much oxalic acid in it. So it's best not to eat too much of it for that reason. The seeds you can also use as a flour, but again you need a lot of them, so the energy input might not necessarily reach the calories that you'll get at the end of it. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was a worthwhile task to do that. If you've got time on your hands and you've eaten a lot that day, then maybe it'll fine to make flour out of the seeds. So you just sort of pull them off when they shoot up the big seeds. You pull those off, winnow them down so the seeds come out, and then grind those into a flour. But it's again, not necessarily worth your while, I don't think. Last forage we did, people had done that and said that it was a pathetic amount of flour they got out of it. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
But in terms of eating the leaves, you get the little ones.
The little ones, the greener are the best. And you can just pour them in a soup.
So you wouldn't eat them raw?
No. And not too much of them, really.
Do they block your iron?
Yeah.